Well, welcome. Thanks so much for joining us here today. I always appreciate when you take time from what is no doubt a busy schedule to spend it here with us. And because of that, I really look hard to find interesting guests that are going to bring a fresh perspective to you so that you can negotiate your best life. And today you're going to be glad you tuned in. We are meeting with the dynamic duo couple of Carol and Terry Moss. So welcome, Carol and Terry. It's so great to have you both here.
Thank you. Great to
Glad
be
to
here.
be here.
And we're going to be talking about getting whole before we negotiate. Because what if the strongest negotiating position in any relationship, whether at work, at home, or even within yourself, isn't leverage or strategy or all the things we've been conditioned to believe, but actually emotional wholeness? And today's conversation is going to sit right at that intersection of negotiation and emotional intelligence and the relationships that shape every part of our lives. And I better say, for those of you who may not know Carol and Terry Moss, they do relationship coaching. They are mentors. They're the authors of Whole You Before Two together. And they bring decades of experience helping individuals and couples move from reactivity and that kind of survival mode into wholeness, clarity, and connection. And one of the things that I love about the work, and it felt I had to get them on when I met them, is that their work really challenges, I think, some deeply ingrained myths, that strong relationships are built through effort or control or just trying harder. And they argue that the greatest gift you can bring into any negotiation or relationship is a whole, emotionally grounded you. So let's dig in. So, and I'll leave it to you two to jump in, or both of you, depending on as I throw out some questions and we have the conversation. So I know your work centers on the idea, as I alluded to, that wholeness precedes healthy relationships. So would you say, what do people usually get wrong, I guess, about readiness, whether for partnership or for leadership or negotiation?
Yeah, and I think you said it earlier too when you said that many of us look at what we have to do.
Mm,
And so we put the effort, we put the work. And so it becomes a performance-based kind of a mindset that if
mm,
I do it well enough, if we're talking about marriage relationships, if I buy the right gifts, if I get
Yeah.
the flowers and the candy, and if I
Yeah.
make sure she's got a big home and she's got a car and she's got a platinum black car, a black card, I mean, she's gonna be fine and life is good.
Yeah.
And when we've seen couples in those scenarios, he's all pumped up because he's doing those things, and she's looking very depleted because he really has missed what is
Yeah.
most important to her.
that is good. And I think one of the other myths I think about is we look outwardly.
Yeah.
So when we're getting into a relationship, just say, or we're starting to date, we're looking at the asset of the other person
Hmm.
Yeah.
and we don't look at ourselves. Are we really ready
Yeah.
for a relationship? Are we like dealing with whatever the past? Are we
Yeah.
bringing baggage in?
Yeah.
Who am I? Am I able to be able to meet whatever this person needs are? So we tend to look outwardly instead of inward.
Oh, I love that. It's funny. I've been having that conversation with one of my sons recently a lot as well about that. Quit defining yourself based on other people. We are so conditioned to look at those external. And I was laughing, Terry, as you were saying about the relationship, because I would say most of the fights I've had with my husband are him running around trying to earn and grow his business. And I'm like, for the love of God, just cuddle up on the couch and watch a show. I want quality time here. So,
That's your
so
love
good.
language, quality time?
I'd say so, yeah. Yeah, I
Yeah.
think so for sure. And he's acts of service. So he'll go do the dishes. And I'm like, I could give a rat's ass about the dishes right now. So
That's me. I love it when Terry do the dishes.
no, I
But
think a
that's
lot of people believe that strength, comes from control, right? Or for some, I guess it's certainty, or, we see a lot of people who need to be right. How does that, I love your focus on that emotional wholeness, and how does that redefine what strength really looks like in practical terms in a relationship?
Oh, I love that. I love that. Terry and I, we always say that the three things is knowing who you are,
Yeah.
your identity, loving who you are,
Mm,
that identity, and then living authentically to who you are. I
oh,
think that's the strength of really knowing who you are because then you're able to negotiate on anything,
yeah,
anywhere because you know who you are. You
yeah.
know your capabilities. And so you feel good about yourself. And that's not being bad pride, that's just knowing who you are
Yeah.
and what you're capable of.
Yeah,
Oh,
that's so good. That's so good. Think you hear people say that knowledge is power.
Yeah.
Mm,
Knowledge of myself
Yeah.
is the real source of power, and that's what Carol was talking about. So I love
hmm
Yeah.
that.
That's
Yeah.
so powerful. Actually, that little sort of that triad, if you will, that you just shared with us is how simple. It's like the recipe for a better life. As you were saying it, I'm like, that affects absolutely everything because we're running around trying to meet everybody else's expectations or the newest fad and we don't do the internal reflection to know ourselves and to love ourselves. And what was the third leg of that?
Just
To live authentically,
Oh,
yeah,
to
yeah.
be okay who you are. So when
Yeah.
you go into a room, you are just really who you are.
Yeah. And you know what's
100.
funny? We spend most of our lives not doing that. And I find it's not until we get much older, I think, for both men and women, and women, I'd say in particular, it's not until we're in those senior years that we're like, I don't care anymore about what everybody thinks about me, right? Suddenly we come into our own where we're like, I like who I am.
I think that's a gift. I really think that's a gift. As we start growing older, we really don't care if you like me or not, what I'm wearing, what my hair look like, I'm good.
Yeah. And I want to follow up when you're saying about living authentically, because in my work, I often say negotiation isn't something we do, which most people think they immediately negotiation, they picture, power suits in boardrooms and taking action. To me, it's something we live. It's how we show up. And I'm wondering from your perspective, how does emotional wholeness change the way that someone shows up in and when I say negotiate, when I say everyday negotiations, I mean our negotiation with ourselves, our negotiation with our intimate partner, with our kids, all of the negotiations.
hmm
Let me take a stab at that this way. If we look at our, I don't know if it's a Gen Z, Gen X, millennials, whatever that group
Yeah.
is.
Who can keep up?
Yeah, no, right, right. But a lot of them that we speak with focus a lot of their energy around, particularly on social media, how many likes, how many
Yeah,
followers, how I'm being received.
yeah,
So that's that desire to be wanted or be approved or be affirmed by someone else.
yeah,
The strength, as we're talking about, the wholeness, when I'm a whole me, when I feel that confidence in who I am and I like who I am, and now I can walk with the strength of that. And so if I'm in a negotiation of or decision or choice, now my choice isn't based on what someone thinks, what is someone going to believe, what is going to feel, what does someone want, but I can say, hey, because of who I am,
hmm
yeah,
this is what's important to me,
hmm
yeah,
and this is what I'm going to stake my claim and put my foot down and say in a nice way, hey, this is what I want. And sometimes there's even boundaries.
yeah,
Uh, this is what I feel. This is what I want. This is what I need. And I'm doing that not because I'm being obstinate or you don't matter. It's because I also matter.
yeah,
And I realize that now.
yeah,
Yes, that is so good. And I like when you said on social media, you're wanting for people to see or receive you. And I
yeah,
was thinking it's their perception. How do they perceive you? So
yeah,
social media, you want them to perceive you in a way that you're really not that authentic. And
yeah,
so now when we're talking about wholeness, it's like posting something, for example, our vacation, and I'm posting the pictures. And before I used to like, oh man, how many people are going to see these? How many people are going to
yeah,
like this? But now I'm looking at it like it doesn't matter how many likes because I'm looking at the pictures and it's giving me
yeah,
great memories. And so I'm being very authentic as to who I am because regardless of how you guys perceive it, I know how I felt and I know how good these pictures are to me. And
yeah,
so that's that authenticity, I think,
Yeah,
makes
yeah,
you not care what the perception is
yeah.
out.
yeah.
And the ripple effect of that is so, as you were saying that, Carol, I'm thinking about like it, and not only is it looking for the likes, but everybody's trying to project these perfect lives. And then it makes everybody more depressed and feeling like we're not measuring up. And especially for the youth, it terrifies me. And I got so over that. I post pictures of myself where I just look like hell in a handbasket. And I'm like, it's like, hello, here I am. And what a day we had. So, but I
Here's the
want
funny,
to come back and focus on that, like with that wholeness and that strength. And I think, Terry, it was you who was talking about it in terms of strength. How does that help us, like that ability to stay grounded in our wholeness? help us stay centered rather than reactive, right? And I'd love both your thoughts on why that's such a powerful advantage, not just emotionally, but even strategically.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, and I'll say for me, when I crossed that line of understanding how important that emotional wholeness was,
Mm-hmm.
it was actually after going through a divorce, actually,
Yeah.
and trying to recover from that, and that's an emotional hit,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
in a lot of ways. But when I began to realize and actually did this exercise, who am I?
Yeah.
Actually wrote that down,
Hmm.
who am I? And I began to look at that not as Terry, the title, the manager, the leader, the father. I mean, not those titles and roles,
Yeah.
but just who am I really?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
2 months. And as I began to write that, I began to realize, hey, yeah, that is me. And that's good. And I can be that because
Mm-hmm.
that's who I am.
Mm-hmm.
And
Yeah.
so for that, I don't have to then pretend to be something. I don't have to try to shape shift so that, well, today I'm going to look like this and tomorrow I'm going to look
Mm-hmm.
this because I want to make sure this person likes me or
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
this person's going to feel good about me. I feel good about me. And so I bring that authenticity, I bring that strength, I bring that wholeness
Mm-hmm.
because now I am aligned internally and that can show externally.
That
Yeah.
is so
And I
good.
love that you drew that distinction here. I just want to put a pin in that for our listeners. When you said, "Who am I?" It's separate from our roles, right? We are a society where everything is labels and we define ourselves based on other people's labels that put on. So I love that you drew that distinction when we talk about who am I? And correct me if I'm wrong, I took from what you said, like that goes back to that learning who ourselves who am I at my core? Who am I at my essence? Who do I want to be? When people use three words to describe me, in a particular get together or when they do my name, who do they see me as in terms of what qualities I embody? I thought that was beautiful.
Yes. And
Because a lot of times we will define that based on, well, I'm Carol's husband,
mm-hmm.
or I'm the manager of this, or I
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
own this business.
Yeah.
But who are you?
Yes. And I love that. And that's what that emotional wholeness to me is all about is self-awareness.
Yeah.
Being aware of, and not only just your strengths, but also your
Yeah.
weaknesses.
Good call.
Because then that's less stressful. It's like now not being afraid to say that I am afraid.
Yeah.
Yes.
Not being afraid to say that makes me
Yeah,
insecure.
that's
Yeah.
good.
And with that self-awareness allows you then to set up those necessary boundaries.
Yeah.
Yes.
And that,
Yes.
yeah.
Yeah. And it's greater in, like, as you were saying that, I'm thinking in our intimate relationships, which I know you guys do great work on that, that just makes sense, right? When we're always trying to be perfect or be in control, as
Mhm.
opposed to leaning on our partner and acknowledging, I'm not so good at this, or I have a really hard time with this, or when you say that, even, it makes me feel, and I know maybe that's my baggage, but I want you to know that these are issues for me. I love that. That's super
Yeah.
powerful.
And you said something earlier that I want to go back to because it's so true. When you said that we haven't learned how to do that.
Yeah.
Mm.
And even if we get in our older age, there are some who have become more comfortable saying, I don't know, or I'm afraid,
Yeah.
but who they say that to. And sometimes they'll say that to others, but really haven't convinced themselves.
Mm.
Yeah.
And so
That's good.
I really am still afraid, but I don't want to show you that I'm afraid.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Or I really am angry, but I don't want to show you that I'm angry, particularly in those intimate relationships. And so the freedom, and it really is freedom
Yeah.
Mhm.
when I can just really be me, when
Yeah.
Mm.
I can express the real me
Yeah.
in a way that's clear and understood and supportive. And that's what the intimate relationship is all about. That's what we
Mhm.
really want
Yeah.
Yeah.
because we were created that way. We were created for those kind of relationships, but we haven't had good learning and teaching around how to do that.
Yeah.
And
Yes.
so that's why that whole you before two, how emotional wholeness
Yeah.
transforms every relationship. I think that is so important.
Yeah.
Mm.
And not just in our intimate relate, as you guys were, the more you're talking, the more I see how this it applies so relevantly in leadership, right? And we were
Yes.
starting to move down that direction. You had Brene Brown talking about vulnerability, I think, which is, tied to what you're both just saying. But we seem to be moving back away from that with that more chest beating kind of energy. So I hope we get back on track. So we need to get your guys' message out there more.
Yes, yes, I agree with you. Let's
And
do that.
let's talk about that for a sec, just so for our listeners, they can really be recognizing what are some of the things that tend to go sideways, whether in our personal life or in business, in our negotiations, when we don't come from that place of wholeness. Where do things go wrong?
And I think that's so good. So, like you said, in an environment, say, of leadership, and you're running a company, and that you haven't recognized or got in tune with your weakness and what you're not so good at, but yet you're pretending to be. That
Yeah.
way, that's going to bring the company down because you have individuals there who is strong in that leadership skill or strong in that area, but you're not leaning on them because you're wanting to be and do
Yeah.
everything.
Yeah.
And so when you don't have that emotional wholeness to say, hey, you know what? I see that you're better with negotiating or you're better with speaking to this individual. I'm going to give that part to you and
Yeah.
allow you to do it.
Yeah.
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 And we've done some work around why that doesn't happen.
Mm,
Because it seems like why wouldn't you do that? Why
Yeah.
wouldn't you? But pride.
pride.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Pride and selfishness are two
Yeah.
killers of any relationship,
Yeah.
business or otherwise. And
Yeah.
when we are, and pride has a lot of sides to it, but one of
Hmm.
them that we're alluding to here, as Carol was speaking, is that I'm too pride to
Too
admit.
proudful.
Yeah.
Hmm.
And then there's also, I'm a too pride to ask. I'm too
Yeah.
proud
Hmm.
to ask.
Yeah.
Hmm.
And so neither will be good, particularly in leadership,
Yeah.
because a leader has to admit that they don't know it all.
Yeah.
Hmm.
I've been leading organizations and people for over 50 years.
Hmm.
And I tell you, the more I began to really lead effectively
Yeah.
Hmm.
was when I began to realize I don't really know.
Yeah.
What if they find out I don't know?
Yeah.
Well,
And
it's
you
letting go of ego, right? Like I
yeah.
often talk about bumper car egos getting in the way of any negotiation, whether personal or professional. We have all these egos coming in the room and then bouncing off of each other like bumper cars, right? So,
Yes.
That's a man thing,
And people don't realize that's really strength than
yeah.
weakness.
which is.
Yeah.
When you're able to admit that I don't know, and then
Yes.
you delegate that to someone else,
Mhm.
that's really showing
Yeah,
strength.
yeah.
Yeah.
And that builds your company,
Yeah.
that builds your relationship,
Yeah.
just the humility of it
And
all.
as a leader, I learned so much from others. It was so I'm retired from that form of leadership. Now
Yeah.
I'm leading differently. But it was so in corporate America, it was so refreshing when I arrived at my own strength internally to realize I don't have to know it all. I don't
Yeah.
have to do it all.
Yeah.
And it's not weakness to ask or to say, hey, why don't you take this?
Yeah.
Because you will do that better.
Oh, amen. I love that. And humility, Carol, that word really stuck with me when you said that too. I love that. And thank you, Terry, for that acknowledgement that it is not a weakness to say we don't know something. And we've been talking about sort of vulnerability. How do unresolved wounds, because we sort of alluded to that earlier, sort of end up negotiating for us, if you will, right? Without us even realizing it when we don't deal with them.
Yes.
Yeah, there are, and there are so many of those what we call saboteurs of relationship.
Mm,
And much of that we talk around emotional immaturity.
mm,
And that part of that is when I'm not accepting,
mm,
understanding, and
mhm,
clarifying how my past has informed my present.
mm,
And when I'm unable to do that, to not just have the emotional intelligence to know that there is a past,
Yeah.
mhm,
but the emotional wholeness and the emotional maturity to understand how that affects me in my
Yeah.
present. How does it
Yeah.
affect my thoughts? How does it affect my words? How does it affect
mhm,
my behavior, my expectations, my beliefs? All of that filters into how I play today
Yeah.
and how in any relationship, because that's me.
Yeah.
mm,
But if that's not the me that I've come to understand,
mhm.
then when someone identifies it, it sounds like a complaint or
Yes,
criticism or
yes.
judgment,
Come
Yeah.
off it.
and not as an affirmation of, yep, that's me. That's why a lot of those Myers-Briggs and other assessment
Yeah.
tests, people kind of like, yeah, that is you.
Yes. Yeah, that is so good. And being able to admit to that and work on that, you're being so vulnerable to where people get to know exactly who you are.
Yeah.
So then they're not crossing the boundaries or things that don't make you feel well. They know, oh, I'm not going to say those words because I know there's
Yeah.
triggers.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. And here's the funny
Yes.
thing. Here's this funny thing though. We as human beings, we want to be seen, heard,
Hmm.
understood,
Yeah.
Hmm.
appreciated, valued. The real us. Yet we hide the real us
Yeah.
so people aren't
Yeah.
seeing.
That's so true. That's ironic. I've never thought of that. That's so funny. Talk about counterintuitive. It's like,
Exactly,
Yes.
yeah.
exactly.
And when we talk about triggers, and again, for our listeners, I think it's important to recognize what are our own triggers, right? So what are, so that we show up aware of it, that when somebody does that, because of that past wounds or baggage or whatever, but also to try and anticipate what other people's triggers are, like either
Yeah.
because you've seen them or you know about them or you're intuiting it, to be conscious of that. And I know just before we came on the recording here, we were talking a little bit about, the art of feminine negotiation and how it's not gender based. It's more about getting away from those old win lose models into a more collaborative model. So I'd love your perspectives on what does it look like when someone stops trying to win in relationships and starts just showing up instead.
Yeah,
Mm.
that is so good. And I think we say we spend all our time together. We do our work together, our ministries together. We go to church together. We eat
Nice.
together. We're always together. And and we vacation and all that time together, we don't really fight. We get sometimes discouraged with each other and get on each other's nerves, and we know when to separate, but because we come authentically and we know each other. So I know your triggers. You know when I'm tired and vice versa. And so we say we stay in our lane. The
Yeah.
only time we seem to crash or clash is when we're in each other's lane.
I
Yeah.
try to do what her strength is, and she tells me what my
Yes,
strength is.
yeah. He
Okay.
tries to tell me where the stores are or where something is in the store, and that is my lane. So,
Yeah.
so
In any mall, anywhere, she can always find Macy's. I don't
so this is what we say. You're
Yeah.
in my lane. Get out of my lane. But we
I
tend
love
to
that.
crash when we're in each other's lane, and then we'll laugh. I'm like, you way over in my lane.
That's a great analogy, actually, for couples. I'm going to start applying that in mine as well. Now, what
Okay.
about for our listeners out there? If we have some listeners who are feeling stuck in sort of recurring relationship patterns, for want of a better term, what's
Nice word.
one, and if you could each give what you would think of as one internal shift that they can leave this podcast and apply that will change everything.
So can I start with, I will start with writing down, like Terry said, who am I? The real, authentic who you are.
Yeah.
And that is okay because we are all a product of our past.
Yeah.
So then we can identify our strengths and also our weaknesses.
Yeah.
And so now when we're able to have these authentic conversations, then we're okay with our weaknesses and also our strengths. So now I'm able to bring my whole true self to my partner, to Terry, because I'm okay with that.
Yeah.
And now they know that. And really when you're able to speak on your strengths, they're not so much more your weaknesses, they're not so much more weaknesses. It seems to kind of make you feel okay about them when
Yeah.
you're able to identify them and then speak on them.
Yeah.
Beautiful.
And what I'll add to that is, what if I would say to a listener, you're not really stuck.
Mm,
Mm,
What you are is able now to identify that something is not in alignment.
yeah.
mm,
And when you can understand that there's something that is not in alignment, whether that's with me internally or with someone in relationship, it's not a stuck, it's a
Yeah.
pause, it's an opportunity to reflect and go, hey, wait a minute,
yep.
what's not happening?
Hmm.
Yeah.
What should be happening? And how can we make this happen? Or if it's just myself and my own growth,
Yeah.
what can I do to keep moving forward? And finally, to that, don't try to go at it alone.
Yeah.
Mm.
Yeah.
We weren't made to do life alone. We
Yeah.
were made for relationships. And so sometimes it's even at a friend. Hey, you know what, best friend? I've been dealing with this. I've been thinking about this about myself and trying to figure out why do I feel stuck? Why do I feel like I'm not growing? Why does it feel like I'm
Mm-hmm.
not advancing? What do you see?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And let that honest reflection
Yeah.
come from a really best friend.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
good.
And I like that reframe about not being stuck. That's a power. Sometimes it's just the perspective that we take on something and how we
Mhm.
frame it. I can see why you two are such a powerful duo.
Absolutely.
So I'm wondering when you think about the next, evolution of negotiation or leadership or sort of relationship building, personally or professionally, I'm curious, what are some things that you think we need to unlearn first? And I think we've alluded to a couple of them, but what thing would jump into your mind and I'll hear from each of you on that first.
It's a good question.
Hmm.
You don't want to go first so I can think?
What do we want to unlearn?
Yeah.
Well, I like when you said that you're not stuck and perspective.
Yeah.
It's really, we're able to act on anything as to how we see it.
Yeah.
And if we try to see the good in something, then that's how you're able to handle it.
Yeah.
See the good. When we talk about that emotional saboteur of emotional intelligence or emotional wholeness, it's isolation. When
Yeah.
you talked about talking with someone,
Mhm.
that's always good because when we stay by ourselves and we stay in our own mind, then that's where that isolation, and that's, I say, where the enemy is able to continue to give you negative perspective
Yeah.
on things and to attack you and make you see the bad, and which is not always so bad.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I loved what you said earlier. I think it was you, Carol, but it may have been you, Terry, about unlearning, I guess, although we didn't use that term then, but unlearning to stop defining ourselves based on what other people's expectations are of or how other people see us and recognize who we are. So, Terry, how
Mm.
about you?
What you both just said are two really good things, and I'm trying to think, what can I add to that? But I was thinking about to unlearn, let's unlearn this is who I am.
Yeah.
Mm.
I hear that sometimes with people, hey, this is just the way I am, and just accept
Oh,
who I am.
Mm-hmm.
yeah.
When we say that, that's almost akin to what I heard one time years ago. We were talking to a couple, and the woman said, "Well, everyone has their truth."
Mm-hmm.
Mhm.
So that was the first time hearing that, and I'm trying to think, well, what does that mean?
Yeah.
Because if I have my truth, you have your truth, you have your truth, you have your truth, then what's truth?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And reconciliation in a relationship
Yeah.
scenario, or even in a negotiation. If
Mm-hmm.
everyone has a truth and I can't come to something that
Yep.
we agree as truth, then it's hard to have a foundation to start with. And
Yeah.
so I think an unlearning in a relational standpoint is
Being
being
open.
open,
Yeah.
and I don't just have to stay who who I think I am or
Yes.
where I think I am.
Yes.
Yeah.
There's opportunity to continue to grow by opening up,
Yes.
listening, and being willing to recognize not only my frailties, but those of others as well.
And I
Yeah.
like that because really opening up as to this is just who I am, but really you're saying that just who you are is really not such of a good person.
Yeah.
It's not a
You
good
know,
thing.
right? So
Yeah.
being to accept the fact that yes, we are who we are, but we're open to grow, to be
Yeah.
a better who we are.
That's it.
Yeah.
That's
I love that. And I want to just distinguish for our listeners there, because this is an important distinction, right? A distinction with a difference, as they say. Because we've been talking about really tuning into who you are, right? Am I? Not based on other people's definitions. That's different, though, than throwing out a glib, well, that's just who I am as an excuse, which really means you're staying stuck, right? So
yeah.
know who you really are and explore that, as Carol and Terry are saying. And we encourage you not to use the glib excuse of, that's just who I am, when you haven't actually done the inner work to get whole. So I love that. I love
Yeah,
that.
yeah,
Powerful.
that is so good. And liking who you are, because I always put it in the analogy of a body. There's different parts to the body, and each part plays an important
Yeah.
role. So accept the part that you are of the body and be comfortable with
Right.
that. And now you're going to make that body work well.
I love that. You guys have the best analogies. As you're saying that, I'm picturing like the heart, versus the spleen. They're two very different functions. So stay in your lane, as you guys would say.
They both play an important part.
Yeah.
So now, if I'm so busy trying to be the nose, I can't be the mouth and the best speaking part of the body that I am meant to be because I'm envious of the nose. No,
Yeah.
be the mouth and be the best mouth you can be.
That's so good. I love that. Now, where can people learn more about you and what you do?
Yeah, so the best place is to go to our website, onefleshministries.org, onefleshministries.org, and you can find out about us, about our work, different areas, about our books, about media, other things. And you can book appointments. You can book us for speaking engagements, and we would love that. And we travel. Canada, anywhere else.
Nice, nice. I love it. And for our listeners, if you want to explore this work further, and I encourage you to do it, it's a game changer. We'll make sure to include the links in the show notes so that you can connect with Carolyn and Terry and dive deeper into their work. And I want to just thank you both so much for a really grounding and deeply human conversation. So thank you both for that.
Thank you
Thank
for
you for
having us.
having
I
us.
enjoyed it.
Thank you.
And for our listeners, I'm so glad you joined us today, and I have no doubt that you're glad you did too. And if this conversation brought value, make sure to subscribe if you haven't done that yet, but also give the gift of sharing. Share this episode with other people that you care about, because there were golden nuggets in this episode from Carol and Terry here both that can help you live a better life, to negotiate your best life, to negotiate better relationships. So make sure to share that with other people that you care about. And when you're ready to step into your full negotiating power, speaking of negotiation, whether in business, relationships, or life, join me at artoffemininenegotiation.com. Remember, every moment is a negotiation. So choose presence, choose power, choose purpose, because together we're redefining what leadership looks like. So lead with heart and stay unstoppable. Until next time, take care.